Hello, this is Arjun Rai. Huge hugs to everyone from New Jersey today. We're traveling to my dad's place. Typically, we're doing these Content Master shows with our amazing clients, amazing customers from New York City. But hello from West Windsor, Princeton area today. Today, I'm really happy to invite one of our amazing customers, Sandi Eveleth, Dr. Sandi Eveleth, who is going to be talking about not only the tools that she uses to, to run her business, including Hello Woofy, but then also what are some of the lessons she's learned when it comes to building her business, scaling her business, and some advice she would tell her 20-year-old self who's just getting started as a young entrepreneur. What would she tell her? So we have a couple of interesting things, and then at the end we're also going to be talking about some favorite things, favorite items, and we're going to do a rapid fire round. So Dr. Sandi, thank you so much for joining in. Please introduce yourself and talk a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you're so amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're the amazing one. We appreciate these sessions that you do, and we appreciate you inviting us on and doing your Friday sessions, which are absolutely amazing. So pretty much, I'm Dr. Sandi Eveleth, as Arjun mentioned, and I'm basically, just as I say in my LinkedIn profile that I know you're going to be bringing up here pretty shortly, but I've been an optometrist for over 3 decades. Yes, people, over 3 decades. And I owned a private practice for 15 years and learned a lot. And we'll talk about this in just a bit, but learned a lot about opening cold a small business. It was a small practice. And then I'd say about 15 years into it, I really learned how to do all the marketing for the business and learn how to get on board with digital marketing, because back in the 90s, that's when digital marketing sort of just started. It was in its infancy and then kind of grabbed hold. So what I ended up doing recently is I've been consulting with other optometrists because they saw how successful our practice was and they wanted to know how we did it. And because we had some subspecialties in the practice as well, which really helped us catapult the practice. I'm no longer in that practice anymore, but I moved away and I just realized that I wanted to combine my love for marketing and digital marketing and offline marketing into a consultancy. So now, as my profile says, I help eye care professionals attract ideal patients to achieve more really wealth, time, and practice growth. So I've am developing some courses, and I do have a consultancy and a coaching program where I help practitioners, and it doesn't have to be optometry. It can really spread across dentists, chiropractors, anybody that has some sort of a healthcare practice. They own their own practice, but they have some specialties that actually set them apart from the typical person in their industry. So in the eye care world, it's not just doing routine eye exams, it's specialty contact lenses, vision therapy, sports vision therapy, low vision, dry eye, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on, but it's basically, teaching them how to show their communities why they're different and beyond the typical, what we say with typical marketing tactics and strategies. So that's what I do. And that's what I love to do. I love to train people on all kinds of software and I have a couple of other things that we can talk about.
Well, I was just talking to someone else the other day about those ad commercials about dry eyes. you remember those infomercials? And then
sure.
there's like, this was also during the days or the time period where we had head on applied directly to the forehead, head on applied directly to the, I'm probably dating ourselves now, but it was, there was a lot of those infomercials, like certain people held on to the knowledge of medical and, marketing in the medical field. And then HIPAA compliance came along and a whole bunch of things. So I'm sure you're, you're aware of all of these amazing things that obviously for your business and in general. How does a small business owner like yourself navigate all these very complex regulations? I mean, your industry is obviously a little bit more regulated than, let's say, a coffee shop or a coffee industry, but how did you teach yourself? How did you discover? How did you figure those things out? For especially if a small business is looking to get started, maybe a dentist is looking to get started today, or even think about going into the medical field or an optometry field. What would you tell that person? What are some of the things to look for?
Well, sure. And historically, just to take a second, is we were actually not allowed to market probably way before your time. When I first started coming out, it was kind of taboo. It was, well, you're, the healthcare, you're not supposed to go out there and market. And I remember when I moved to Southwest Florida, it was interesting because there was an ophthalmologist that all of a sudden, when the gates opened up where we were allowed to advertise for ourselves, he got on board and he hit every sort of media platform that you possibly could. Again, even before digital marketing was mainstream.
Mm.
So it sort of went from we didn't do it to we went crazy with it to HIPAA compliance, and we
Yep.
absolutely have to be careful with that. In fact, to the degree where I am pretty certain that a lot of my colleagues don't even realize this, that even the websites that they use, they have to be extra careful, because
Yeah.
if the company that they're using is not HIPAA compliant, does not enter into it, a lot of practitioners don't know, it's a business agreement, a BAA, to
Mm.
protect PHI, which is personal health information. If all of those things aren't in place, they could actually, be hit with some fines and get
Yeah.
themselves into some trouble. So even some of these funnel companies that you're aware of, that I'm aware of, they're actually not HIPAA compliant. So
Mm.
if I'm talking with a client about setting up some offers or setting up something that's sort of beyond the norm, I have to be very careful, and I have to let them know about that. The way that we discover this is we just continue with our continuing education. There's a lot of
Mm.
information out there. A lot of the younger optometrists are getting very involved with, being online, getting on social media, being very present, and also they understand the importance of personal branding.
Yep.
That a lot of my generation, they're kind of, oh, I don't even want to do that, and I recommend that you do that, because just like you're presenting yourself out in your community, if you're a soccer mom or dad, and you're out there on the field, you want to
Yep.
behave yourself, and behave in a professional manner, and not look like some parents might appear. And that's owning a business 101. We
Yeah.
certainly are professional. We want to show that in our personal lives. Well, it's the same thing when you go online. You want to make sure that you're behaving professionally
Yep.
when you're out there online and doing your personal branding. So to answer your question kind of a long roundabout way, is there's lots and lots of experts out there that understand the importance of HIPAA compliance, and
Yeah.
understanding that in terms of guarding our patients' information. We were always aware that it's very important that we don't divulge any kind of personal
Yeah.
health information, but it became legal. We were already sort of schooled in the, what's said in the room stays in the room,
Yeah.
appropriately so. But, that sort of same thing as lawyers with privilege, but it's just,
Mhm.
that's just behaving professionally. And I think that most practitioners understand that. They just bring that into the field of the digital marketing.
So you talked to, and I want to remind everyone who's watching in live right now, as well as after the recording is posted online. Make sure you follow Dr. Sandi on LinkedIn. She loves LinkedIn. She uses LinkedIn day in and day out. So look up Dr. Sandi Eveleth on LinkedIn. I think she comes up really easily if she has a very unique name. So definitely do follow her on LinkedIn and reach out to her. Here's her email as well. So I do want to ask you, your next question would be around the tools you use. And of course, you use Hello
Sure.
Wolfie, so you can talk about that if you'd like. But more importantly, what are the other tools that you found that have worked for you, and even the ones that are in the graveyard? Why didn't they work? You don't have to mention names or company names, but specifically, how did they do a disservice to small businesses? How did they do a disservice to you when you were trying to run your business? And how can we, as a SaaS community, as a software company, a software community, do better to build the tools and the tools and the platforms that people like you need? And obviously, our mission, which is to build the biggest company helping the smallest. How can we get our other founder friends? I can reach out to other founders and the investors that they've raised capital from. How can we encourage everyone to do better?
What great questions. Really, really great questions. So let's start with what I do use that's been successful and helped me with the digital marketing as well. I ended up getting rolling up my sleeves and getting involved in my own practice. That's where everything started, of course. And I started back in the day. I learned all of the Adobe products. I
Mm.
would say I'm in the intermediate to advanced level with that. And I ended up learning Dreamweaver. So I learned HTML, CSS, all of that. And I taught myself. It was just a passion that I get into. So I created my own website. Of course, again, back in the day, we didn't have to worry about HIPAA or any of that.
Yep.
But again, very careful about what we use those emails for. So what ended up changing is I fought it. Let me tell you, I fought it, but I ended up going to WordPress, because the more I heard about it and the more small businesses heard about it,
Yep.
it just, Google actually started. I talk as though Google is a person or a librarian, but Google started to like WordPress sites because they sort of came out of the can again as they grew and developed with being very SEO friendly. And it just became an easy platform because I decided as I got proficient in learning how to do WordPress, people were noticing that I knew what I was talking about, and I would, speak at different local meetings and whatnot, that local companies started to hire me to do some of their websites. So I just made it easy because I basically wanted to, as I say, I wanted to turn the keys over to the owner. I wanted to give them access to their own website because time and time again, you hear of these web designers that sort of hold hostage the clients and don't give them the back end information, don't give them the login. Oftentimes it's just to protect them so the site doesn't go down. But I have this, I had this value and mission to give the local owners access to their website. I even taught them how to edit their website because I wanted to do that. So what did work was WordPress, and with, as we got on board, EMRs or EHRs, which are, medical records and health records for, electronic for the health industries. So we're all going that route. So we learned that early on in our own practice because we left a corporate location into a private location. We started with our own EMR at that time so that we had our own records and our own patients. So I would say that, to kind of give context and an overall view for you, I don't know if you can, learn more about HIPAA compliance because it's vital for all of these platforms that have gotten on board with HIPAA compliance. They understand the dire importance of that. And I'll tell you, a lot of these consultants that are going out there and teaching other dentists, other optometrists, they might not even realize that those websites have to be HIPAA compliant. So I think it's important that their own clients who are also, in the same industry, other optometrists, other dentists, et cetera, they're not necessarily aware, and they're not even necessarily aware about the social media implications, such as, you have to get approval from your patients to start posting about them. Even if those patients start posting and bragging about the practitioner, saying, oh, I had the best eye exam ever. The testimonials. And, that doctor has to be very careful coming on, even if they were tagged by the patient. If that patient did not sign a release, that doctor is not supposed to go in there and necessarily interact on their social media, even though they tag the physician. So, and again, this is in the U.S. Different countries have different rules for this, but it's vital that doctors understand the importance of when they're out there putting testimonials on their website, putting social media feeds on their website. Be careful, make sure. And I'm not an attorney. I only play one on TV. I make sure that you do get together with a HIPAA compliant expert attorney to, for them to give you even more information on this. But that would be number one that I would say with you. If you want to play with some of these other companies, get in touch with some of the electronic medical record or health record companies. There's a lot of big SaaS companies out there that would love to integrate some marketing into their platforms. They're already integrating, finding out analytics where patients are coming from, doing some of the email, marketing. So, let's add another layer where we can do this content creation and have your platform be part of it. So that's one thing I would say. The other last thing, as far as things that might have fallen by the wayside, are softwares that just didn't serve me anymore. I tend to be a little bit of a productivity geek, and I've gone through a lot of different companies. I won't name a bunch of them, but you mentioned Notion. I absolutely love them. I actually abandoned using it because I thought it was not too simplistic, but I didn't realize that even though it looks very minimalistic, it is probably one of the most powerful software programs for productivity, for data collection, for database, because they use this platform of pages and database and interchangeability and embedding features. And I could go on and on and on because I'm really just discovering how deep the software actually allows me to become productive. It's much more than what it looks like on the surface. And I love their whole branding. Everything that they do looks very minimalistic. These cute little cartoon stick figures. I love it when branding matches the premise of
our little dog here too.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love it. I love it. I love how you've done that as well. But They're a very, very just like you. They're very customer service oriented.
Mm.
They love listening to their customers. They
Yep.
love continuing to improve, and they do the same. They love their emojis, and they
Yes.
it's part of their culture. You can tell they've got the whole black and white stick figure for the faces, but they
Yep.
go crazy with the emojis. So I can definitely see you reaching out to them, and something integrating there. They continue
Mm.
to improve their platform, because I guarantee you there are a lot of social media marketing managers and marketers in general who are over there using Notion. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
Yeah.
People are creating courses. There's one woman that stands out among most of them. Marie Poulin is her name, and it's
Hmm.
Poulin, and she has just done wonders with educating the rest of us how to use the platform and maximize. And of course, she has a course, and she's done very well with the course. But I've definitely fallen in love with it. It's that same feeling I get with your software. I just love it.
Let me ask. So you mentioned regulations. I mean, one of the things that we've been doing from the very beginning is raising capital from our own customers. We have over 2,500 investors who've come through equity crowdfunding. We just launched this campaign a couple of days ago, and we raised about 20K or so. And between the lead investor and the small checks that come in, and guess what? Our customers can invest as low as $100 into the company. Even the way I'm saying it, I've been trained to say it in that way without
Hmm.
promising, without
Right.
disclosing things, saying things will happen in the future without, making sure the customer or the potential investor understands that there is a huge amount of risk associated with any sort of investment, which starts at $100 level. So it's one of those things that I think founders or just in business owners in general is the underdogs, right? If you're in the medical field, do what Dr. Sandy's saying. If you're in the tech field and you're raising capital from venture funds, or or even the Reg CF equity crowdfunding community, know your regulations, know how to say things, know what to say. So you not only come across as being educated, but you defend and protect your baby, your creation, right? Your business, your underdog business. So that's just something I wanted to highlight, is that you're absolutely right.
Sure.
Know thy business. um,
Right. I mean, and I'm sure you come across this because it is the small business owner that
mm,
is your main human or avatar, as some people like to say.
yep,
But I'll tell you, because I've opened several businesses. I am amazed at how many small business owners actually
yep,
don't even know the local laws and don't understand you actually do need to protect yourself, and
yep,
go beyond just a solopreneur. Really look at the different structures. Look at, there's so many people that are doing, they're working out of their home or they're working out of a location, and they
yep.
haven't done all of the local, county, state regulated things that need to be done. So I've actually
Mm,
helped a lot of people, whether I've done it paid or just because you have to do this, and educating them that there are certain steps you have to take before you even hang that shingle, before you put the open sign up on your door. So it's amazing.
I love that. So it's check your local regulation and do due diligence. I'll put that down
Absolutely.
there. There we
Absolutely.
go.
Yeah. There you go.
Um, my next question would be around the 20-year-old version of Dr.
Sure.
Sandy. What does she look like? What is she focused on today in 2021? What should she focus on in the next 10 years? Because obviously, building a company and building a brand, you talked about branding earlier. It's not an overnight thing. I think someone said for every 2 minutes of fame and glory, there is 8 hours of hard work. So, what does that 20-year-old Dr. Sandy look like today, and how is she navigating building a business?
So how does she look now, or how did she look when she was 20?
Well, not look, like, what is she like? How
No,
is
no,
she
no. I
running the
mean,
business?
no, no, no. I mean, seriously, when I was 20, the big word was fear. It
Okay.
was follow a certain pathway, do certain things a certain way. And it wasn't because anybody put any restrictions on me or
Mhm,
expectations, but I internalized those expectations. At the time I was the only one of four children that went to
mhm,
college. That
mhm,
soon changed, but I was the baby in the family, and I felt like I was the one that was supposed to do everything the right way. So even though I continued or always had this sort of entrepreneurial heart, back in those days, because I mean, I'm a little bit older than you. Back in those
I just
days,
turned 30 2 weeks
yeah,
ago.
yes, you did. And again, happy birthday to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've been an optometrist for about as long as you've been on this earth. So I had a few years before that to learn how to become one of those. But there was no question. It was go to school. And even when I was an undergrad, I was a biology major. I thought I have to do the doctor route. But even as a senior in undergrad, I still wasn't sure which route I wanted to take. And I fell into optometry. Long story, I won't even go into that. But basically, I was so afraid. I'm going to tell you that it wasn't until I hit my late 40s that I actually realized I don't have to continue doing exactly the same thing as an optometrist, because I've discovered in my later years that I prefer variety. I actually, as an optometrist, you're in a room doing the same thing every half hour over and over and over again. And that doesn't fit my personality.
Yeah.
I'll still
You're
do it.
doing
And
the eye roll after that.
right. Exactly. Exactly. So in the meantime, I'd always had my hands in learning, because that's where my passion is. And I love turning around and teaching people whatever it is that I learn. So the big thing when I was a 20-year-old was I would tell my 20-year-old self is you don't have to do what's expected of you. Don't listen to those voices. We hear this, it's cliche, and I think that your generation, who's the same as my daughter's generation. She's only a few years younger than you. I'll admit that. Yes. I think that you're realizing that no. This industrial revolution way of whether it's going into business or it's, going to school, the paradigm will shift, and it's starting to do that now. And I wish that myself now told me back then that don't be afraid, try new things. If this path doesn't work, go to this path. Because I'll tell you that at one point I thought, oh, I'm doing this thing and I'm stuck for the rest of my life. And then a good friend of mine said, why? Why not do something else? That's when I went ahead and opened up another business, the
So do
digital
you
marketing.
subscribe? Someone once told me that fear is a lack of knowledge. So the only reason why we think that something in the dark is there and we're afraid of it is because we don't know exactly where the table is, the lights are, the wall is, because the lack of that is creating the fear itself. Did you feel the same way?
I think it goes a little deeper than that, because I think one of my superpowers is I've always had a lot of self-awareness. I was that kid told that she was an old soul and you're already a grown up. And again, maybe that's where some of the
Hey,
expectations
old
fell
souls are
on me.
good. I have vinyl records at home.
Right. Well, good. That was a real, that we really had those. Yeah. No, but it's, it's the knowledge, it's that layer. Well, yeah, I can give advice to everybody else, but that's
Yeah.
not good for me. So you have to take those blinders off, no pun
Yep.
intended, but you have to take those blinders off and basically say, no, what I'm advising for other people absolutely relates to me. And I don't think it's just knowledge. I think it's knowledge, or, knowledge combined with action, that we've got to take that one step towards this other thing that we're afraid of. It's pushing through. I mean, there's all those different, for acronyms for fear, but it's basically, it is pushing through it. It is realizing that, the older you get, the cliche of, hey, you know what, life is short. And there's so many things that happened in my life that kept proving that, a lot of health issues in my family members and whatnot. It's just, I started to look at my future and realize that, oh my gosh, I don't want to be doing this same thing and complaining about it 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So it's now or never. I'm still healthy. I still feel good. Let me go ahead and step into fear. And part of that is even more recently is me doing the live broadcasts on LinkedIn using StreamYard, which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
But that's not something I would ever do. And it's just what you're doing here. It's just interviewing some of my colleagues and talking about marketing, and we'll get you over there too, hopefully, Arjun, to talk about what you do too. So, but I absolutely would say, I don't care if you're afraid, just and what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. When I finally started to do that, what's the worst that can happen? So
I was gonna say this is my one of my icons of all time has been Steve Jobs, and one of the things that he says is this paragraph, right? Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remember that you're going to die is the best way the way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You already are naked. There is no reason to not follow your heart. And this is one of those one of those speeches that you
Yeah,
just
that's
listen
that
to over
speech.
and
Oh,
over
yeah.
and over again. Yeah.
That speech actually is one of the reasons why I did what I did. That
Mhm.
actually, that very speech, and that's something that I talked to, my own daughter about quite a bit. And Gary V, that famous, he's got
Mhm.
that social media post when someone comes up to his window and say, "Give me some advice," and he says, "Yeah, 3 words: you're going to die." And people laugh and chuckle. It's like, no, no, no. When you in that real moment of realization that
Yeah.
and the reality, what is it, that thing that, it's because we're worried about what everybody's thinking about us. Well, you know what? They're worried about what everybody's thinking about them. And number two, they're not even thinking about you. So it's like, it's none of their business what they're thinking. And by the way, they're not
Yeah.
thinking about you at all.
Yeah.
So
Talk to us a little bit about the one of the other projects you're working on, which is
sure.
a movie.
Yes.
Let's switch over to Sam. It's because of Sam.
Thank you.
Who is this person? What is the reason you're so obsessed or very
Sure.
passionate about this topic? Could you talk to us about it on our networking calls that happen every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern time? So highly recommend everyone joining if you're a customer of Hello Wolfie. But why is this person so important to you, and what does it
Sure.
mean?
Appreciate that. The story was actually started back in 2009 by the producer, Renee Warmack, when she actually read a story in the Tampa Tribune, I think it was, about Sam Piazza, who was born with Down syndrome. He actually was voted homecoming king back in his high school in 2009. I came into the picture back in 2015, and because I know all of the Adobe products, by the
Mm.
way, I know how to edit. I know how to use Premiere Pro and After Effects
Yeah.
to
And by the way, I want to highlight knowing multiple things and is such a huge asset. Like I remember starting in the computer science side of things, right? And I wanted to be an astronaut before, but then I got into radio and advertising. But the fact that I knew coding and advertising was such a rare thing
yeah,
in the beginning, that all these skills that Sandy's talking about, like Steve Jobs says, you can't connect the dots looking back. You have to connect the dots looking forward.
yeah, that's a good,
Or
yeah,
sorry, the other way around. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You have to connect them looking back,
yeah.
and that's how the universe will play with it. All the skills you've amassed, they all have a purpose.
Yeah, they do. And the thread, because I had difficulty with, because I have another company called Kiss Your Web. That's actually, the official company.
Mm.
And that was the WordPress design company, et cetera. So it was kind of hard for me to describe how all these things happen until I just told my story. And then
Yeah.
it's like all the thread. Oh, of course it makes sense that I did all this, and it really goes back to a moment when I was scrapbooking and fell in love with page design, where then I
Mm.
learned InDesign, then I learned Dreamweaver, et cetera. But anyway, long story short, I had been in the Adobe world for probably 15, 20 years, and just absolutely love editing, and have realized that video editing means content creation and content editing. But because of Sam is such a wonderful story about this young man, he's very charismatic. And what happened in 2015, we discovered that he was working right up the street, which happens to be owned by the same founders of the Outback dynasty.
Wow.
So the producer was able to get a hold of the founder and VP of marketing, just various people, and got them on board with being in the movie. And long story short, we ended up making this documentary film based on some of the footage from 2009. His mom had so many profound moments, and we did have
Mm.
some footage from interviews of some of his classmates and his friends. And
Mm.
just, it's, the story is truly about how he overcame challenges. And the
Mm.
movie title came from his mom, that he has affected so many lives in this area. He was born and raised in Tampa, so was the producer of the film. And there's so many people in this community that know Sam. Oh, you know Sam Piazza? Oh my gosh, I know Sam Piazza. It's just, he's definitely, 1 degree of separation, not even 6 degrees of separation from so many people. So we wanted to tell the story, and we got a lot of people involved in it. And part of the thread is because of Sam, people's lives were changed. And we have several people near the end of the movie talk about how he affected their lives. So when you're with him, it takes all of 5 minutes to be with him to realize what a very amazing young man he is. And
Mm.
he's just very inspirational. He's very ambitious.
Yeah.
And so the movie's not just about how he affected his community and how his family rallied around him and his community rallied around him. It ends up being an inspirational story for anybody else that thinks back if you're afraid to do anything, watch this movie, because Sam fall down, brush himself up, he gets right back, and starts doing whatever he needs to do. He just makes sure that whatever he sets his sights on, he makes happen. And he's done it over and over again. And it's just interesting to see how many people were involved in helping him make that happen. It's amazing.
Sure.
And it's truly also a story of his family and his mom. His mom is the other silent star in this film. She's just such an amazing human being. And
Well, you need
so,
those supporters. I mean, you remember all those
yes,
supporters along the way. I remember everyone who's written a check, has advised, has mentored, has made connections along the way. And as you remember those. I actually am such a hoarder of memories. I actually have photographs of the checks that were written to me, or the
awesome.
receipts, or like I have selfie, photos of every moment, because you have no idea where you would be in 5 years or 10 years
Sure.
from now. And so yeah, let's switch gears and talk about your favorite things. We're gonna do a rapid fire. Your favorite book, favorite song, favorite person to have dinner with, and then your favorite emoji. So let's talk about your favorite song.
Oh, you switch it up on me. My favorite song, I actually, I would say right now, it's any song that's an anthem song
Mm.
that's from The Greatest Showman.
Oh yeah,
We
I
went to
love
the
that movie.
whole sing along, and
Yep.
it's a movie that when I'm feeling kind of down, throw that in, and it's like, okay, I'm going to
Mhm.
conquer the world. So,
Yeah.
any of those anthem songs, I absolutely love. So it's my favorite album right now.
Favorite book and why?
Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I really fell in
Hmm.
love with Stephen Covey's teaching. Again, I go back to being a productivity junkie. I thought the book was mainly about productivity because I also like first things first, but that was just one of the seven habits. So it began my entire journey towards productivity, self-help, self-awareness, in reading about it, book form, and sort of validating some thoughts that I had, and also giving me some strategies on, living a better life, more ethical, more moral,
Hmm.
all of that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I love it. Even to this day, I love the whole Franklin Covey way of being productive.
Favorite movie and why?
Well, I can't say because of Sam, but
Besides that one, what is and why?
personally, well, boy, that's a tough one.
Like for me, it's The Pursuit of Happiness, for example. Or The Secret. Two movies
I
that like.
love, well, yeah, I love The Secret. I love that
Mm,
whole premise too. I'll have to come back to you on that one. I'm not really sure. I'm a absolute avid movie and series watcher. I'm a criminal series kind of watcher. I love solving mysteries and things like that. So it would probably come down to something like that.
mm. But I think
I
we can
have,
agree on The Secret.
but I love The Secret. I have it actually on one of those where, same thing as the album. I'll click on
Yep,
The Secret
yep,
to
yep.
make me feel better about things. So, absolutely.
And the person that you would like at dinner, alive or not, but who would that be, and why?
Yeah, hands down, my mom. She passed
Mm,
away about 12 years ago, and she just an amazing mentor. And it's only been after she passed away me realizing that she was the quintessential entrepreneur.
yep,
She
yep,
didn't have a company defined, but she was a
yep.
real estate mogul. She did actually own a couple of clothing stores. She was
Wow.
yeah, she was a fashionista. She was amazing, and I've got pictures I post every now and then of her, and you can see why she looks like a movie star. She was only 5'4", and she'd walk into a restaurant, everybody would turn their head and
Yeah,
think, who is this movie star? And everybody
yeah,
took very good care of her whenever she
yeah.
went out to eat. So
It's
very wise, the wisest person I know, and I would love to have dinner with her one more time. And I know that you can empathize with that, my friend.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say I'm
yeah.
actually in the room right now where I'll just turn around. This is actually her vision board up there on the computer and
No.
everything she wanted to do, and this is her yoga room and things like that. So there's a lot of memories in this room itself. I'm at my for viewers who are joining in now. I'm at my dad's place visiting, and he's actually on his way to the airport this Friday with her ashes, and because there's a
Oh,
ceremony you have to do in our religion,
yep.
where you have to pour the ashes in the Ganges River in India. So, and they actually have records, like they have
Wow.
generations of records behind, because the people up there, I guess the people who live in the village, they actually record the people's names.
Wow.
So for several generations, my dad was telling me they've actually recorded that. But I would probably agree with you as well.
Yeah, big virtual hug to you, my friend. Yeah.
Oh, virtual hug.
Yep, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's yeah, there's nothing like mom, for sure. So
Let me ask you our next question. I'm going to refresh
yes.
the screen. Is what are your favorite emojis? So here we're actually tracking specific,
Okay.
what emojis are being used around the world, what's
Okay.
popular, what's not popular. So of these emojis that you see, what does it mean to you, or rather, what's your favorite emoji? And what does it
Yeah.
mean to
Well,
you?
you keep passing by it. It has to be the one with the sunglasses.
The sunglasses. Okay, where to go? Where to go? Oh, here we go. This
Right,
one.
right. Yeah.
Awesome. Why?
Easy, easy. So obviously the eye care industry, but I think that is an emoji that looks cool. And I like to call myself a cool girl geek that, although I know how to do all of this different software and technology, I like to think that I know how to explain it in terms that people understand. So they think I'm pretty cool when I train or teach them how to do something. So that's my favorite. And then the other one is the lightning bolt. It's actually, I use that in one of the coaching programs that I actually helped create. It's not my coaching program, but it's a coaching, and it's called the Power Hack Playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all that electricity, power. So it goes right along with it. The other thing too is again, as a productivity hacker, I love the bullet journal, and
Mm-hmm.
Ryder Carroll actually has used that lightning bolt as part of his. And again, I love his stuff because he's very. You can tell there's a theme. I love minimalism,
Sure.
and I love the way he's branded himself in the bullet journal. So that's also, I think he uses that same emoji. So I'd say those are pretty much in the hearts. But who doesn't love
Well,
the hearts?
I want to say thank you, Dr. Sandi Eveleth, for joining in today and talking about so many amazing things about your history, the tools you've used, how some of you've used some lessons to build your business, and obviously sharing your personal side as well. So I do appreciate that. I put your email on the bottom of the screen, Sandi at drsandieveleth.com. Please do reach out to her if you need any WordPress help, if you need just wisdom in general about building your business. Anything else, Sandi, you want to talk about before we end the show?
No, just keep an eye out. I would say probably on my LinkedIn profile, because we're going to have another announcement that has something to do with the movie. But so just keep an eye out that, because I do
All
share
right.
that
Well,
information every now and then. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
well, virtual hugs once more from New York. Oh, well, New Jersey, but usually New York City. But
Yes,
thank you so much. All
yes.
right.
My pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate
Take
it.
care. Bye.
Bye bye now.